new investment, I think we would create new jobs. And then the question is, are Americans ready to feel the pain, to make this big fundamental change? And one of the things I propose is maybe to try a pilot program, to limit it to one state, to see how it goes. And I think Missouri has something similar to that. But, excuse me?
Missouri almost passed the state.
Yeah, okay. And so I think if we had like a proof of principle to show that we could do that, and then the investment would bring in new jobs, I think it would be a great start, and I would support that.
Mr. Loyola.
The value-added tax is, as we said earlier, is a huge way for the government to get in the pocketbooks of every aspect of productivity in this country, on every single step. Value added. When you take something out of the ground, you mine it, you ore, you smelt it, you then pour it into a casting, then you assemble it, then you sell it, and wholesale, retail, every single one of those chain of events, there's going to be a tax. And the government's going to determine what that tax is going to be. Value added. When you value add to something, the government say, this is how much is here, and this step, all the way up. What's different from that from the fair tax? Fair tax says, no, we're going to tax now the consumption. And I disagree that across all 50 states, there are institutions set up much more efficient than at the federal level that either support sales tax or support business license or support some type of documentation in terms of what happens at the retail level across the country in reporting. And therefore that infrastructure is already there. And by adding that consumption tax, the consumption tax to it, you eliminate the onerous IRS tax system with 100,000 employees, 102,000 employees. And now, I don't know if you just recently heard that thanks to the healthcare system, they're adding 16,000 employees to the IRS system, and they're going to be supposedly there to help you process healthcare processing. Now, if you have an IRS agent come to your door and say, I'm here to help you with your healthcare, you know we got problems. And we kind of not allow that to happen. So that's why the fair tax is truly the most best efficient system that's used in many other countries, and that's why we've gone from a production and savings country to a services and expenditure country. And we're expending ourselves into huge, well, we have this huge debt, but into oblivion. And that's why China's becoming a superpower, and Europe and other parts. It's a dangerous road we're taking. My analogy earlier, my example of taxation and unemployment and crime, that's a microcosm between our 50 states. That applies also globally. So it's work. We just cannot allow history to repeat itself. We just be students of history. Thank you very much.
Ms. Sandlin.
Well, the VAT is the lemonade, and all the money being added as we go step by step. And the fair tax is the consumption at the end. So it's the tax on the glass of lemonade as you give it to the consumer. I really like the fair tax. I am excited about it. I read the book. I dog-eared it. I looked at what different people have to say about it. The idea of implementing that across America absolutely boggles my mind, but we're America. We can do anything we want to do. I firmly believe that. And one thing that I thought about the other day, I was driving, I have an 8.5-year-old minivan, and I thought, gosh, I'm driving this 8.5-year-old minivan, and it's still got all this stuff in it. It's got this great DVD player for the kids, and it's got 800 cup holders and this and that. And one of my friends has the newer version of this minivan. It's about 2 years old. And that thing has more bells and whistles on it. It's got improved this, improved that. You open the trunk by pushing a button, and it goes, whoo, I love it. Over 4 years, this minivan has been improved just exponentially. When I think about the minds that are that creative that do that, and I think about our federal government, and I wonder why we're not applying these same creative ideas and new ideas in the federal government. I mean, I'd like to see Bill Gates in charge of the FAA. Oh my gosh, can you imagine everybody have a laptop? We'd be doing those planes, it'd be no problems. Imagine how efficient and how less expensive things could be. So that's something that's exciting. Also, taxes, when I pay my taxes, I do them myself, and a few years ago I made a mistake, and I just got the bill for that mistake. Of course, they add the interest for the mistake, and now I'm paying, instead of paying the tax guy $200 to do my taxes, I'm paying the IRS $350 with the interest. So it's gotten so complicated. I have a college degree. They walk you through step by step, and it's still just too complicated. Thank you.
for Mr. Mohawk to rebuttal.
I have to disagree, Ben. To say that 5 states out of the 50 have an infrastructure that does something else that can now collect sales tax, it exists. It does not exist. 5 states in the country do not collect sales tax. You just can't say that it exists. I'll use a little simple example of an issue that I have with sales tax I haven't talked about. You own a landscaping company. You cut lawns for a living. Now you have insurance, you pay workman's compensation, you pay gas, you pay your truck, you have a trailer, you drive up, you're doing these services, and guess what? You add a 28% value-added tax. Not value-added tax, fair tax, because the federal government takes their 23%, the state takes 5%. We might have a lot of kids in the landscaping business cutting lawns for $50 a month, or $50 a cut, and we'll never see it. I think a huge unintended consequence is we think all these jobs are going to go away and all this money is going to flow into the federal coffers. There's going to be so many unreported financial transactions that they're not going to be able to keep track of it, and it's just money that's going to evaporate in front of our eyes. Thank you.
All right. Our next question comes from the Old Dominion University College Republicans, and I will hand the microphone off to Tyler Spires, the chairman.
Hello. Since 2002, the cost of ODU tuition has went up over 80%. What can be done to make higher education more affordable?
Thank you. Mr. Malbeck.
I'm the first guy tonight. You know, part of the problem that tuition's going up, maybe because the government is supportive of lending you that much more money for education. The government's got no problem with you leaving college here with $50,000 worth of debt. How about if we didn't allow you to borrow so much money? I think colleges might be forced to lower tuition. So this is a perfect example where I don't think the government's the answer. I don't think they're helping. And you know, things just changed recently with the funding of college loans. You know, the banks used to collect it, and the government used to subsidize the interest while you were paying interest-free. And now they cranked it in the healthcare system so they could fund it. They could save a lot of money. Actually, there could be a lot of savings there for you as a college student. But the government that's in, you know, Obama right now chose not to do it. He chose just to, hey, we'll pull it all in. We'll make the student loan element of our economy, now it belongs to the federal government. We'll keep the savings. We will fund this abomination of a healthcare plan with it and not pass it to you students. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Taylor.
I don't think the government is the answer either. Like you said, the student loan program got taken over across the country except for one bank in North Dakota. And why do you think that was? A bribe, of course, for the healthcare, for passing the healthcare bill. Again, like I talked about before, I want to see the Department of Education reduce, and I'd like to see it go back to the states. I don't think the government is the answer. One of the things that will help out with student loans is getting our debt and deficit under control. We talked about the health and the 3 entitlements. I'll talk about energy now. The reason why we need to get it under control, the reason why we need to get energy independent to get the deficit and debt under control is that as we borrow more and more billions of dollars from China and foreign countries as well too, they're going to get a little bit shaky and they're going to be a little bit scared about their investments. So what does that mean? That means higher interest rates for student loans, for motorcycles, for cars, for houses, all that. So I have a little bit of time, so we need to make sure that we are unhandcuffing our domestic supplies for exploration and production, and we need to be looking right off the coast here, responsibly drilling, as well as look at wind power. If the private sector can make sure that it can happen, we have a unique position in Virginia Beach to be able to plug directly into the power grid as opposed to everywhere else on the East Coast. So again, we need to become more energy independent, create jobs, expedite nuclear permits for nuclear plants, which creates 2,000 jobs to create one, 500 jobs to run it. Some of these things that we talked about, the health, reducing the debt with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, as well as energy independence, to reduce the debt and deficit so that we can stop borrowing money from other countries so that you can have lower rates on your student loans. Thank you.
Mr. Mississauga.
Thank you. You asked about making college more affordable, and my understanding is the greatest component of the cost of college are the salaries of professors. I went to Harvard Law School, and I noticed we had a lot of socialists and Marxists there. I was doing a doctoral program at the Kennedy School at the same time, and we had a Soviet fellow. This was in the late 80s when